My book is ostensibly about art forgery and about forgers as the great artists of our time. And the reason that I make this argument has nothing whatsoever to do with the quality or lack thereof of their work as painters or sculptors. Some of them were, in fact, very talented at a technical level, others were not. What interests me, rather, is the result that their forgeries have had and that forgers' work has on our society. What I would say my foundation for this is a distillation of what I think art fundamentally is and has been about in our time, since the late 19th century at least, perhaps before, and that is that art is fundamentally in the business of anxiety, of provoking our anxieties about ourselves and our world, and making us, in various ways, more reflective, seeing things from other perspectives, and therefore living more fully, perhaps. And that straight artists have done this, and done it well, in terms of, for instance, David Park, in the way that his perspective, quite literally, disorients you and really makes you look at things all over again in an entirely new way. Warhol, who you've written about at length, is also an example in an entirely different way of this, coming out of the straight art world, of an artist who takes commodities and basically turns them around, makes them into icons in a way that the relationship that we have to them, which always has been one of worship at a certain level, is made explicit. He's doing many other things, but that is one way in which he is provoking us to address some of the kind of underlying phenomena, the underlying ideas, the underlying assumptions that operate in our society. To me, though, these artists are more or less, and Warhol may be the great exception, confined to the gallery and museum space, and really are seen only by a very small select group of people, and the way in which they provoke anxiety, and again, Warhol may be the great exception to this, tends to be at the level of what I would call illustration. Illustrating something that is other in order to get us out of our own space. Forgers don't interest me for their own work in terms of the technical skill, as I said earlier, but rather for the scandal that ensues when they get caught. That is to say, when a great forger has managed to dupe all of us, what happens in that scandal, I think, is a deeply humiliating but highly productive process of self-reflection. The galleries or museums that were duped, for instance, the financial level at which art operates, but more broadly, questions of authenticity, of what we consider to be real versus not in a society that lives more or less on television and the internet. These are questions that are highly productive and that come up when suddenly something that was real at some level is not at another, and yet is perhaps at yet another.